The gate at Denver International buzzed with a familiar mix of fatigue, impatience, and the smell of overpriced coffee. John Callahan shifted the weight of the small backpack on his shoulder as his 5-year-old son, Ethan, tugged at his jacket sleeve with one hand and clutched a battered plush dinosaur in the other. "Are we flying yet?" Ethan asked for the 4th time in 5 minutes, eyes wide with equal parts wonder and exhaustion. "Almost, buddy," John said, glancing up at the monitor. "Delayed, only by 20 minutes, but still." He offered Ethan a smile that masked his own weariness. "Gotta wait our turn, like when we line up for ice cream." Ethan grinned and nodded solemnly, sitting back down on his little rolling suitcase. He was a bright kid. Too bright sometimes. He knew more than any 5-year-old should about loss, about hospitals, about absence. John had been a paramedic for nearly a decade, but nothing prepared him for the long nights after his wife, Laurel, died from complications following Ethan's birth. Now, everything John did was for this boy, each double shift, each grocery trip planned down to the cent, each bedtime story. Today's trip to Phoenix was supposed to be a breath of fresh air. A visit to Laurel's parents, long overdue. The call for boarding came over the intercom, and John stood, gently nudging Ethan forward with a hand on his shoulder. They moved into the line of families and business travelers, navigating with practiced grace. Halfway down the jet bridge, John heard it, the piercing, frantic wail of an infant echoing from somewhere ahead. People began to shift uncomfortably, glancing around with restrained irritation. A few sighed. One woman with a sleek bun muttered, "Great. That's just what we need for 3 hours." John's eyes found the source. Near the aircraft door, a young mother, mid to late 20s, hair in a messy bun, dark circles under her eyes, was wrestling a diaper bag that had spilled open. A baby, maybe 6 or 7 months old, squirmed against her chest in a carrier, red-faced and inconsolable. The gate agent was trying to help pick up the contents, a bottle, a pacifier, a crumpled toy. But the line behind her was impatient. John could feel it in the air, the tightening coil of judgment. "Come on, people, some of us have places to be," someone muttered from behind. John felt Ethan freeze beside him, uncertain. His son looked up at him. "Daddy, the baby's crying." "I know, buddy." He bent down. "Looks like she's having a rough day, huh?" Ethan nodded. The line lurched forward, and when it was their turn to board, John approached the woman. She looked up, startled, her lips twitching in that exhausted, apologetic way all overwhelmed parents wore. "Need a hand?" John asked gently, crouching to gather a container of wipes that had rolled beneath a seat. She hesitated, surprised by the lack of condescension in his voice. Thank you. That would be amazing." "No problem. I've been there." He helped her reorganize the bag and waited until she'd settled it over one shoulder again. The baby was still crying, but a little less now, maybe sensing the momentary calm. "I'm John," he said. "This is Ethan." "Maria," she replied. "And this little drama queen is Ava." Ava wailed in protest, as if on cue. John chuckled. "She's got good lungs. Future singer, maybe." They shared a weary smile as they moved into the aircraft. Inside, the flight attendants were mid-safety check mode. John quickly spotted their row. He had the window and middle seats. Maria, it turned out, was right behind them, wedged into a tight aisle seat with the baby already kicking against her chest. She tried to soothe Ava while simultaneously wrestling with the tray table latch. John glanced at Ethan. "Hey bud, you want to trade with the nice lady? Let her sit by the window." Ethan's brow furrowed. "But I wanted to look at the clouds." John leaned down and whispered in his ear, "I need you to be my helper today." I think she needs the window seat more than us. We'll fly again soon, I promise. Ethan looked at Maria and then at the crying baby. With solemn resolve, he nodded. Okay. John switched seats with Maria, helping her slide into the more comfortable spot near the window where she could turn a little and bounce Ava gently. She gave him a look full of silent gratitude. Thank you, she mouthed. He waved it off. Happy to help. As the plane finished boarding and taxied out, the cries began to quiet. Somewhere between the low rumble of the engines and the warm hum of a mother being able to breathe again. Mid-flight, somewhere over the New Mexico desert, the plane hit a patch of turbulence. Ava, startled awake, erupted into another fit of tears. Maria, now visibly shaking, tried bouncing her in place. A bottle tumbled from her lap and rolled toward John's feet. He bent, scooped it up, and held it out. Do you want me to? Maria shook her head, pressing her eyes shut as Ava shrieked louder. She won't take it. I've tried. She's just overtired. Let me try something. John asked. She blinked at him. He turned to Ethan. Remember our secret tickle trick? Ethan perked up. The one for the ER kids. That's the one. Together, the father and son began performing an exaggerated version of a silly routine involving crossed eyes, duck noises, and pretending to sneeze into Ava's feet. The baby paused, hiccuped, and then, miraculously, giggled. Maria let out a noise that was half laugh, half sob. How did you? Paramedic magic, John said with a wink. He didn't mention the hundreds of calls where a calm voice and a smile had worked better than any medicine. As the plane began its descent, the cabin lights dimmed to a twilight glow. Many passengers were sleeping. Maria rested her head against the window, eyes fluttering closed as Ava snoozed in the sling across her chest. John looked to his left. Ethan was fast asleep, drooling against his stuffed dinosaur. A voice came from across the aisle. Hey, said a woman in her 20s, holding her phone. I hope this isn't weird, but I recorded what you did earlier. With the baby and all. I posted it on TikTok. It's already kinda blowing up. John blinked. You posted what? She turned the phone toward him. The screen played a short video, John making ridiculous noises while Ava squealed, Ethan watching with beaming pride. The caption read, This single dad traded seats to help a stranger's crying baby, and made all of us cry instead. Hashtag kindness matters, hashtag dad goals, hashtag faith in humanity. The likes were ticking upward, fast. 25,000. 30. John stared, stunned. I hope that's okay, she said quickly. People need to see stuff like this. We all complain so much about the bad. He looked at the video again. He didn't see a hero. He saw a tired man trying to help another tired parent get through a long flight. But then he glanced at Maria, sleeping for the first time in what probably had been days. He looked at Ethan. Maybe that was what kindness was, just showing up. As the plane touched down in Phoenix, the baby didn't cry. Maria turned to him, eyes glassy. I don't know how to thank you. John shrugged, brushing a hand through his tired hair. Just take care of her. That's more than enough. As passengers began to disembark, the flight attendant leaned in. We don't usually do this, but we wanted to thank you too. You made our jobs easier today. She pressed a small envelope into his hand, voucher for free flights. John opened his mouth to protest, but stopped. Maybe, just this once, he'd let it be what it was, a gift. A quiet reward for simply being human. He took Ethan's hand, adjusted his backpack, and stepped off the plane into a bright desert morning, unaware that this was only the beginning. The next morning, John didn't notice anything unusual at first. He was in his in-laws' kitchen, brewing strong coffee while Ethan sat cross-legged on the linoleum floor, dramatically reenacting the airplane's descent with his dinosaur and a paper cup. Maria had sent a polite thank you text late last night, just a simple, "You saved me more than you know. Thank you again, truly." John smiled at it, then set his phone aside. But as the kettle hissed and Ethan launched into a new sound effect-heavy version of the baby's crying, John's phone buzzed again. Then again. And again. He frowned and checked the screen. 14 unread messages. 2 voicemails. Multiple social media notifications, except he didn't even use social media beyond a dormant Facebook account for family pictures. The first message was from a colleague. "Bro, are you famous now? Look at this." Attached was a link. He tapped it. The video filled the screen, him, on the plane, bouncing Ava in his arms while Maria caught a few minutes of blessed sleep. The caption was the same as the woman had mentioned. This single dad traded seats to help a stranger's crying baby, and made all of us cry instead. Below the caption, #kindness matters, #dad goals, #single dad strength, #faith in humanity restored. John watched the clip in stunned silence. He could hear his own goofy duck quack. See Ethan's wide grin as he held up the baby's pacifier like a victorious knight. It wasn't just posted. It was viral. 94,000 likes. 28,000 shares. 3.5 million views. "What's that, Daddy?" Ethan asked, hopping up. John said slowly. "Something a lady recorded on the plane. Remember when we were helping that baby?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah. She was super loud." John laughed. "Yeah, she was. But we helped, didn't we?" Ethan puffed his chest out. "We're good guys." "Yeah," John murmured, scrolling. "We are." By noon, his phone was flooded. Text from his old EMT partner. "News wants to interview you? Call me." Message from Laurel's cousin. "OMG, this is you?" CNN reshared it. His work email? Dozens of messages. A reporter from a national morning show wanted a quote. A parenting blog asked for an exclusive interview. One message from a parenting group moderator read simply, "You don't know how many moms needed to see that today. Thank you." John stepped onto the patio with a deep breath, staring at the quiet Arizona sky. It all felt surreal, unbalanced. He hadn't done anything. Not really. Just a decent thing in a moment that called for it. He didn't deserve this avalanche. Maria called that evening. Her voice was lighter now, like she'd finally gotten a full night's sleep. "So, apparently we're on Good Morning America." John sighed. "I saw. I'm sorry. I didn't know she was filming. But, honestly, I think it's a good thing." "You do." "I've had a rough year, John. That flight was rock bottom. And now, strangers are sending me messages, telling me they cried, that they feel less alone. And you," she paused, "you made people believe that kindness isn't dead. That's something." He didn't know what to say to that. "I didn't mean to be a symbol," he admitted. "I don't think symbols choose to be symbols." By that weekend, the video had been viewed over 10 million times. TV personalities debated whether John represented a return to decency in a disconnected world. Podcasts dissected his gesture. Parenting forums canonized him as the plain dad. He declined most interviews, offering one short segment via video call alongside Maria. They answered questions awkwardly, mostly laughing through their nerves. When asked why he stepped in, John simply said, "Because it was the right thing to do. And because someone once helped me when I was drowning." We just forget how much little kindnesses matter. That soundbite got clipped and shared even more. He didn't even remember saying it that way. The fame, however, wasn't entirely comfortable. A few trolls surfaced in the comment sections, of course, skeptics who claimed it was staged, or bitter voices scoffing at celebrating the bare minimum. But their negativity was drowned out by something else. Something massive. Hope. A comment from a woman in Kansas. "I was scared to fly alone with my newborn next month. I'm not anymore." A man in Ireland. "My dad never once helped my mom with us growing up. This makes me want to do better." A teacher in India. "I showed this in class today. We're discussing how small actions ripple." John didn't know what to do with that kind of ripple. By the fourth day, the airline chimed in. Skybridge Airlines reposted the original clip on their official channels with a message. "To John and Ethan, your compassion left an impression on all of us. We'd love to connect. Please DM us." John blinked at the message and reread it. Then again. What did they want? He messaged back a cautious, "Happy to chat, but not sure I'm the kind of guy you're looking for." Within the hour, someone named Kayla from Skybridge PR emailed with the subject line, "Elena Reyes would like a moment of your time." He didn't know that name until he Googled it. Elena Reyes, CEO of Skybridge Airlines. Former flight attendant turned industry reformer. Known for her people-first philosophy and her refusal to let customer service become an algorithm. She had built her reputation on exactly what John had modeled, human kindness at 30,000 feet. The next email came with an invitation for a video meeting. No press. No audience. Just Elena, privately. John debated it. It felt like too much. All of it. But Maria texted him that night. "You always talk about teaching Ethan to be a good man. Well, maybe this is part of that. Let him see what happens when someone leads with kindness." So John accepted the invitation. The call took place the next morning. A quiet Zoom session. John wore a clean t-shirt. Ethan sat off-screen with a bowl of cereal, listening. Elena appeared in a simple blouse, her hair tied back. She smiled warmly. No fanfare. No corporate jargon. "John," she said, "I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just wanted to say thank you." He blinked. "You don't owe me anything." She tilted her head. "That may be true. But gratitude isn't about debt, it's about recognition. And what you did. That reminded a lot of us why we do what we do." He stayed quiet, unsure what to say. "You have a gift," she said simply. "Not just empathy, but the ability to lead with it, to model it under pressure. That's rare. I'm just a paramedic." She smiled. "And I was just a flight attendant. Until someone gave me a chance to build something bigger." She leaned forward. "We're building a new department at Skybridge. Something we're calling Compassion Operations. It'll train staff in crisis de-escalation, emotional intelligence, family support protocols. But we need someone to help shape that culture. Someone who's lived it. Who knows what it feels like." His breath caught. "I'd like you to be part of that conversation." John swallowed. "Is this a job offer?" She chuckled. "Not yet. Right now, it's just a conversation. But I'd like to fly out and meet you in person. Shake your hand. and maybe plant a seed. He didn't answer immediately, but he didn't say no. That night, after tucking Ethan in, John sat on the porch alone. The desert sky was deep and infinite, the stars sharp enough to cut through doubt. He had started the week as just another tired dad, trying to make it through a flight without losing his mind. Now, he wasn't sure what came next. But something had shifted. Not just in the world. In him. The early morning knock startled John. It was barely 7 a.m., and Ethan was still curled beneath his comforter, one foot sticking out like a flag of surrender to the Arizona heat. John padded down the hallway in bare feet, yawning as he unlocked the door. A woman stood on the other side, dressed simply in jeans and a collared blouse. She was holding a small carry-on and a coffee tray with 2 cups. No entourage. No camera crew. "Elena Reyes," she said, offering the coffee like it was a peace offering. "May I come in?" John blinked. "You flew out here?" "Personally. I like to do some things the old-fashioned way," she replied. "Besides, I've never been a fan of Zoom for conversations that matter." John stepped aside, still groggy. "You didn't come with, like, security?" She chuckled. "You're a single dad and a paramedic, not a cartel leader." That made him smile. They sat in the modest living room, knees inches from Ethan's Lego fortress on the coffee table. The air smelled faintly of cereal, lavender detergent, and dust. "I'm sorry for the mess," John said, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's not a mess," Elena said. "It's lived in. I like it." She sipped her coffee and studied him for a moment. "You know, I spent years serving drinks at 35,000 feet before I ever dreamed of running anything," she said. "What made me good wasn't memorizing the script. It was reading people." John shifted. "And what do you read now?" She smiled. "You're a man who carries weight. Not just responsibility, but grief. And yet, somehow, you haven't hardened. You've softened. That's rare." He didn't know how to respond. So he didn't. Instead, she leaned forward, resting her cup down carefully. "I'm not just here to say thank you," she said. "I'm here to ask if you're willing to turn that plain moment into something bigger." John furrowed his brow. "What do you mean?" Over the next 10 minutes, Elena outlined her plan. Skybridge was launching a new initiative, Passenger Compassion Operations, a holistic training and advisory program to rehumanize the flying experience. Not just for customers, but for crew, staff, pilots. The goal was to instill empathy from check-in to baggage claim. "We want to build something that lasts," she said. "But we don't want it designed by people in suits. We want it led by people who understand the chaos and kindness of real life." She looked at him squarely. "I want you to be the face of that." John blinked. "You want me to teach airline employees how to, what? Be decent." "Not just that. I want you to help shape the culture. Run sessions. Speak. Design real-world scenario training based on empathy, crisis navigation, and human connection." "I don't have a degree in anything corporate." "Neither did I." He sat back, the couch suddenly too small. "You're asking me to leave paramedic work." "No," she said gently. "I'm asking you to choose something new. To bring your experience into another arena. One where you might save a different kind of life." Later that afternoon, Ethan and John walked to the park. Ethan held his hand, chattering about the new monkey bars. But John's mind was thousands of feet above, still processing the idea Elena had offered. A job. A real one. Remote optional. Full health benefits. A flexible schedule to allow him to still be present for Ethan. Travel stipends. A base salary 3 times what he currently earned, patching up wounds and calming heart attacks. But more than that, it was meaningful. Different, but meaningful. He watched Ethan race toward the slide, hair flying, cheeks flushed with joy. Could this new path mean fewer night shifts? Could it mean never again handing Ethan off to a tired neighbor at 3 a.m. before rushing into another trauma call? Could it mean being home, not just physically, but emotionally? That evening, Maria called again. She'd seen the interview tease Skybridge had posted, a photo of Elena and John shaking hands, no context. Just, sometimes kindness starts in 11B. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft. "I don't know," John admitted. "This feels big." "It is big," Maria said. "But so is what you've been doing. And this lets you keep doing it, without breaking your body in the process. What if I'm not cut out for corporate life?" "You're not," she said, laughing. "That's why you're exactly what they need." There was a pause on the line. "You once said someone helped you when you were drowning," she added. "Maybe now it's your turn to toss the rope to others." He closed his eyes. Maybe she was right. 2 days later, Elena returned. This time, she brought papers. A formal job offer. A position designed around John's strengths, Director of Passenger Empathy and Response Training. The title made him wince a little, but the fine print was incredible. 6 months of orientation. 1 year of program development and launch. Co-lead design authority with a team of former crew members, trauma counselors, and training specialists. And a personal note at the bottom. "This program starts with you. You changed how people see this company, and how we see ourselves." Elena. He stared at it for a long time. John accepted. The first week in the role was a whirlwind. He didn't relocate. Skybridge flew him to HQ twice a month, and the rest he did from his own living room, with Ethan nearby and the dog curled up underfoot. His first session was with 12 flight attendants and 3 ground staff. He walked into the training room, heart pounding, hands damp. But as he began to speak, about that flight, about Maria, about the moment Ethan had traded the window seat, he saw something shift in their eyes. They leaned in. They nodded. One wiped away tears. By the end, one of the crew members raised a hand. "No one's ever asked us how we're doing," she said. "Thanks for being the first." John realized then, he hadn't left healing work behind. He'd just found a new kind of patient. Within 2 months, the story had gained new wings. John's kindness in flight module was picked up by 2 partner airlines. Then a third. Testimonials poured in from attendants, passengers, even pilots. One woman wrote, "I was panicking on my first solo flight with twins. The crew noticed and sent me a note on a napkin, 'You're not alone.' I found out later they'd been trained under your program." John sat with that napkin for a long time. He didn't post about it. He didn't add it to any slideshow. He just folded it and kept it in his wallet. On a crisp Friday morning, Skybridge hosted a media event to formally launch the program. Elena took the stage first, speaking with her usual grace. Then she called John up. He stepped into the lights, heart steady now. "I didn't plan to be here," he said. "In fact, all I planned to do that day was keep my son calm on a crowded plane. But sometimes, showing up for someone becomes more than a moment, it becomes a message." He paused, glancing down at the crowd. "I don't think kindness is about being perfect. It's about noticing, responding. It's not grand gestures, it's the choice to trade a window seat. Or offer your silence so someone else can sleep. He smiled. Turns out, if you do that enough times, someone will notice. The crowd erupted into applause. But it was the text from Ethan's teacher later that hit the hardest. Ethan told the class his daddy teaches kindness to people who fly. You should have seen the way the other kids looked at him. John stared at the message for a long time. Then he wept. Not because of the job, or the fame, or even the change, but because his son saw him, and believed in who he was becoming. 6 months passed. The desert heat of Arizona mellowed into a golden autumn, and John's life quietly, beautifully transformed. His home no longer buzzed with early morning EMT calls or hurried scrambles for night shifts. Instead, mornings began with Ethan sleepily wandering into the kitchen, dragging his blanket behind him and asking if today was a computer meeting day or a daddy stays home day. Most days, it was both. John's new role with Skybridge had grown quickly. His once experimental passenger compassion training was now a structured program adopted not only by Skybridge, but also by 2 partner airlines and a regional bus network on the East Coast. But John didn't see his work as corporate expansion. He saw it as planting seeds. His days were filled with conversations that mattered, Zoom sessions with flight crews in crisis, roundtables with burnout-exhausted staff who confessed things no manager had ever asked to hear. John didn't offer revolutionary insight. He listened. He shared his own failures. He told stories about a baby named Ava, a 5-year-old hero, and a plane full of passengers who forgot themselves long enough to care. More often than not, people cried. Some laughed. All left changed. And as much as John had hoped he was making a difference, he never expected what would come next. It began with a routine training in Dallas. The flight had barely taken off when a teenage girl across the aisle collapsed in her seat, unconscious, pale, her mother screaming her name. John's instincts kicked in immediately. He vaulted across the row, called for oxygen, and began CPR while flight attendants cleared the area. The pilot called in a medical emergency and diverted within minutes. John never hesitated. For 10 breathless minutes, he guided the crew through the emergency, never shouting, never panicking. Just clear, focused direction. The girl lived. The moment was never recorded. No one posted it. But word spread. To passengers. To crew. To Skybridge HQ. To Elena. That evening, Elena called him personally. Her voice, uncharacteristically soft. "You didn't just save a life, John," she said. "You proved, again, that kindness doesn't cancel out courage. It strengthens it." She paused. "You're not just leading a program anymore. You're shaping a legacy." Weeks later, John stood in a hangar in front of a crowd of Skybridge employees, press, and families. The airline was unveiling a new initiative, the John and Ethan Fellowship, a scholarship program for single parents working in caregiving, public service, or education, designed to help them pursue leadership training and flexible job opportunities. Elena took the podium first, explaining the purpose behind it. Then she gestured to John. He stepped forward, holding Ethan's hand. Ethan had insisted on wearing his kindness cape, a faded red towel tied around his neck. No one had the heart to stop him. John cleared his throat. "I didn't set out to become a symbol," he said. "But I did set out to be a good father. And what I've learned is that sometimes being a good parent means showing your kids how to treat people, even when no one's watching." He glanced at Ethan. "Especially when no one's watching." The crowd clapped, many rising to their feet. Elena stepped forward again and whispered something into Ethan's ear. The boy beamed. Then she pulled the cover off a nearby easel. It was a framed photo, John on the plane, Ava in his arms, Ethan watching proudly. Beneath it, the plaque read, "The kindness seat, reserved for those who make the world better simply by being in it." Back in Arizona, life remained simple. John didn't hire a publicist. He didn't move into a fancier home. He still drove the same battered pickup, still did school drop-offs, still made grilled cheese on Wednesdays. But now, he received letters. Hundreds of them. One was from a flight attendant who'd been quietly struggling with PTSD from a mid-air emergency years ago. She wrote, "After your training, I found the courage to seek help. For the first time, I don't feel broken. I feel brave." Another was from a mother who had once planned to cancel her holiday flight with her autistic son due to fear of judgment. "But we boarded. The crew used your program's approach. They treated him like a person, not a problem. He made it through the whole flight. I cried all the way home." John read each letter. Sometimes he cried too. Sometimes he just sat in silence, holding them like prayers. On a quiet December afternoon, John received a message from Maria. They hadn't spoken much since the program launch. Life had swept them in different directions, but their bond had remained. The message was a picture. Ava, now toddling, dressed as a little pilot, clutching a plastic airplane. Under it, "She still remembers you. She still sleeps better when I tell her about the man with the kind hands." John smiled, tears rising behind his eyes. He typed back, "Tell her the helper's still flying." One rainy evening, John sat with Ethan on the couch. The boy curled against him, eyes half closed, listening to the wind against the windows. "Dad," Ethan mumbled, "am I gonna teach kindness too someday?" John wrapped his arm tighter around his son. "You already do, buddy. But will I be like you? With a job and everything?" John thought about that for a moment. "I think," he said carefully, "if you keep showing up for people, the world will make room for you. Just like it did for me." Ethan nodded slowly, drifting off. John stared out at the night. He thought about how easily life could have passed him by, how close he'd come to folding inward after Laurel died, how one ordinary moment on a flight had changed everything, and how none of it had started with strategy. It had started with a seat swap, a crying baby, a choice, a kindness. Weeks later, a letter arrived from Elena. A formal one this time. The company was renaming part of their leadership center to reflect the heart of their new mission. It would be called the Callahan Wing, where compassion takes flight. John read it 3 times before folding it gently into a file. Then he went outside, sat on the porch, and watched Ethan chase fireflies in the yard. The boy darted back and forth, cape flapping, laughing wildly. John smiled. Because whatever job titles came next, whatever honors followed, his real legacy was already running through the grass. And he had no doubt it would fly farther than he ever could. If this story touched you, please subscribe and share which moment of the story you cherish the most. We would love to hear your feedback.